So the good news if you're a seller is there's a fantastic strategy that you should be aware of right now. That if you are thinking or are in the process of selling your smaller home to upgrade, you are in a super advantageous position. Hi, I'm Danny Brown. I'm the CEO of Myriad Real Estate Group, and this is going to be our October market update. So right now in the greater Phoenix area, we are at about 14,700 listings. So the listing activity in greater Phoenix is actually increasing. The numbers just came out as well that home values are up about 2.9% year over year and are up about 0.1% month over month. So home values are continuing to increase, however, at a slower rate, just basically coming back to supply and demand. So supply is increasing, demand is relatively flat. And so that's why we're seeing kind of muted gains in home values year over year and month over month. So what we're seeing is really a lagging indicator based on the seasonality of Phoenix. As we transition and get closer into November and the holidays start to pick up traction, we always see a pullback in market activity. So we see fewer listings on the market, we see much lower buyer demand, and just not as many people are motivated to do something during the holidays, which is completely understandable. Nobody wants to move, during Thanksgiving, Christmas. They're spending more time on shopping and spending time with family. So not as much real estate takes place towards the end of the year, and I predict that we are going to see that trend at the end of 2024 with just a slowdown in overall market activity for the greater Phoenix area. I think the biggest news in real estate is that the Fed finally cut rates. So they met this month in September and they cut the federal funds rate by 0.5%. So the important thing to know is just because the Fed cut rates by 0.5% doesn't mean that mortgage rates dropped by 0.5%. These are two very different numbers and people really get lost in that. Even people in my industry get confused that when the Fed cuts rates, that doesn't mean that they're cutting or lowering rates on mortgage rates. Mortgage rates are down, but they have been down for probably the last 2 months, and they're at 2-year lows. So right now you can get mortgages in the high 5s, low 6s without any points, and that has really dramatically increased affordability for buyers by quite a bit because for most of this year we've been hovering in kind of the mid to high 7s. So what is taking place is the 10-year Treasury is expecting more and future rate cuts to come from the Fed. So all of this is already baked into the current mortgage rates. So what mortgage rates do tends to be like 6 months in advance of what's actually happening in the marketplace, kind of a predictor or a leading indicator. And so mortgage rates are expecting future rate cuts to come. So that's already been baked into the mortgage rates, which is fantastic because that is immediately increasing buyers' affordability, which has really been crunched over the last 18 months. With that being said, the best time to be a buyer in any housing market is right before a seller's market. The hard part is knowing when the seller's market is coming, and usually we play Monday morning quarterback and be like, oh, well, this was the start of a seller's market. However, right now, I think that we can pretty accurately expect that a seller's market is just around the corner, and I think that it's going to be in the spring of 2025. So we have lower interest rates right now, dramatically increasing buyers' affordability, and this is creating this perfect window of time for buyers that have been on the fence, who are ready to do something, to act in the near term. We are getting sellers to still contribute towards closing costs. We are getting sellers to negotiate on price. This last weekend, we were able to successfully get a buyer under contract where the home was listed at $475. We got them under contract at $450, so that's $25,000 off. Plus, we got concessions out of the seller to help them cover closing costs. So sellers are still very much willing to negotiate. And what's even better is that we have elections coming up. So that's putting a lot more people on the sidelines. And we're headed into the holidays, which, like I said, is traditionally a very slow time for real estate. So if you are a buyer looking for the perfect window, we have lower mortgage rates, we have elections causing people to freeze and want to wait until those are done, and we have the holidays right around the corner, and we have 14,700 options in all of Greater Phoenix for you to choose from. So If you are somebody that has been waiting, this is one of those ideal windows and pockets of time that is not going to last very long, where you have increased affordability and you can get the seller to negotiate quite a bit and get a lot out of them. That is all going to change, and my prediction is that that is all going to change come the spring of 2025. If you're a seller, absolutely be prepared to negotiate, right? So you are still going to have to motivate a buyer to buy your home because that demand is low for all the reasons that I just said. Your non-educated, your non-savvy buyers are afraid of uncertainty because of the elections. They don't want to do something for during the holiday. They want to get into 2025. They're waiting for rates to come down even more, or they are the ones that don't understand that rates have already dropped and now the Fed has done 0.5%, so now they think that rates are only slightly lower. So all of these things as a seller you need to be aware of and be willing to negotiate on that price. Be willing to do repairs or give concessions in lieu of repairs. Help the buyers buy down rates and be willing to do those things in order to sell your home. And you're gonna have to price it accurately. That adage of pricing high to be able to negotiate down does not work in the era that we're in, where people have more access to information than they've ever had before. That is a strategy that just no longer exists. You can assume, or statistically, that your final sales price will be at about 98% of your final list price. So as you do price reductions, once you end up finally selling, that percentage is typically around 98% is what you can walk away with once you finally do sell. This market is absolutely fantastic if you are a move-up buyer. That is somebody who is thinking of selling your smaller, lower-priced home to upgrade to a bigger, higher-priced home. Because if you are in a position where you are needing to sell today and you're going to take a 5 to 10% haircut on the sale of that lower-priced home versus what you might get in the spring, that higher price home that you plan on upgrading into, you can get that same 5 to 10% haircut on. So you're actually walking away with more money. So you are trading up and you are making money on that deal by selling your current home at a lower price and buying that higher price home at a lower price. If you're a seller who's thinking of downsizing, then I'm actually waiting. So I'm a realtor that's telling you not to do a real estate transaction. I would wait until the spring when those home prices are higher and there's greater demand for housing to sell at a higher price before I'm downgrading or downsizing into a smaller home. This is all based on the caveat that you should do a real estate transaction when you are prepared to do a real estate transaction. I think timing the market is just not something that you should do, because I certainly could be wrong. But this is probably the most clear picture that we have for estimating what the housing market is going to do, because it is clearly lined out in front of us based on what the Fed is suggesting to us that they will be doing here over the coming months. If you have any questions about what to expect in the real estate market, where interest rates are at, I should plug and say, if you've purchased a home in the last 2 years, talk to your lender about possibly refinancing into a lower rate. You can refinance about once every 6 months and not have it be a negative. And so based on where your interest rate is at today, it might be advantageous to do a refinance. So talk to your lender about that. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments, and don't forget to give a like and subscribe.